Significant development in the case against President Trump's personal attorney.
A Fox News anchor is now officially linked to Michael Cohen. KCAL9 political reporter Dave Bryan has late details and reaction. Dave?
And all of this is taking place in a New York federal court, a hearing over the rage last week by the FBI. Tonight, Sean Hannity is fighting back. Hannity was revealed to be the mystery client of attorney Michael Cohen, whose list of clients includes President Trump. And now, while the judge ponders how to rule on documents seized from Cohen in those raids last week, Hannity is accusing the media of making a mountain out of a molehill in reporting his connection to Cohen.
I never asked Michael Cohen to bring this proceeding on my behalf. I have no personal interest in this legal matter. That's all there is, nothing more.
He was the mystery client, but now the mystery is over and he's fighting back. Sean Hannity responding Monday night to having been named in court as one of President Trump's attorney Michael Cohen's 3 clients. Cohen was involved in paying off hush money to the other 2 of his clients' alleged mistresses. Hannity announcing on Fox that he never used Cohen as a conduit to pay off a third party.
I did have occasional brief conversations with Michael Cohen. He's a great attorney about legal questions I had, or I was looking for input and perspective. And to be absolutely clear, they never involved any matter, sorry to disappoint so many, matter between me or third party, a third group at all. And my questions exclusively almost focused on real estate.
It was under pressure from a federal judge that Michael Cohen's lawyer coughed up the name of the client he had hoped to keep secret. That would be Hannity. Also present at the hearing were Stormy Daniels, who's engaged in her own legal battle with President Trump and his legal team, and her attorney, who had a different view of Hannity being publicly named as one of Michael Cohen's 3 clients.
I think Sean Hannity got thrown under the bus by Michael Cohen's counsel today, who was clearly more concerned about protecting the president than protecting Sean Hannity.
At issue in the hearing is whether prosecutors should have access to documents and computer files seized from Michael Cohen's home and hotel room in FBI raids last week. And should the documents be screened first by President Trump in the White House so classified material can be deleted? And should Cohen's defense attorneys also have copies of the seized documents? Hannity denounced the raids and defended Cohen. But L.A. Congressman Ted Lieu, a Democrat, says at the very least Hannity should have informed his audience that he's a client of Cohen's.
Sean Hannity should have disclosed the special relationship he had with Michael Cohen if he's going to run a whole bunch of stories about the raid on Michael Cohen's office and say how that was so bad. And I think Sean Hannity misled his audience, and he should apologize to his viewers.
My discussions with Michael Cohen never rose to any level that I needed to tell anyone that I was asking him questions.
Looking on as Cohen's lawyer stunned the court, Stormy Daniels. She was bombarded outside by reporters as she made her way to the federal courthouse in New York. She and her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, wanted to pose Cohen and the president about the $130,000 he paid her 11 days before the 2016 election.
I think her message has been consistent, and that is she wants everybody to tell the truth and stop lying to the American people.
Last week's FBI raid of Cohen's office and hotel suite was connected not only to the Daniels payment, but also money given to former playmate Karen McDougal, who also claimed to have had an affair with Mr. Trump.
For years, Mr. Cohen has acted like he is above the law. He has considered himself and openly referred to himself as Mr. Trump's fixer. He is played by a different set of rules, or should we say no rules at all. He has never thought that the little man, or especially women, and even more women like me, mattered. That ends now.
Now, tonight, the New York Times reporting that some members of the Trump administration said they see this Cohen inquiry as a more serious threat to the president than special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. In court today, the judge did not issue a final ruling on who should get access to these documents seized in the raid on Michael Cohen's locations, but the judge reportedly may have tipped her hand by announcing that she trusts the prosecutors. Juan, Lena, back to you.